What's different between the movies and real life?
Pretty much everything. Perfection is the standard at Top Gun, not a pursuit. No one's a leader on day one. If you are late for the meeting, it's a $5 charge. If you repeat anything someone said before you, it's a $5 charge. Leadership is a job, all right? Leadership is it's not something you do in addition to your job. The concept is that Top Gun has is we're going to take you in, we're going to teach you and put you back in the squadron so you can teach there. So you are a force multiplier.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the lounge here at the Gents Place in Frisco at the Star, Dallas Cowboys headquarters. I've got John Markley, Skid Markley. We're going to have to dive into that on how that moniker came about. But I've got retired Navy Captain John Skid Markley, who's a senior naval science instructor at Louisville High School, NJROTC. And after a 33-year Navy career, including time as a Top Gun instructor, which we're going to talk about, and senior intelligence leader, he now mentors cadets through one of the most multifaceted student programs on campus. 120 students?
120.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. Okay, Skid, let's just start there. How did that happen?
So it is interesting. When you join a squadron, my first squadron was VFA 97, the Warhawks, out of Lemoore, California. And at the time, I had been commissioned in 95. I had had about 8 years of Navy because I had been prior enlisted. And so you show up at the squadron, and every aviator has a call sign. It's not like the movie at all. It's nothing like the movies. The naval aviation does not give you a very complimentary call sign. It's based on one of three things: your last name, how you look, or something you did. So I joined the squadron, and all the aviators have their call signs. And there's one of the aviators, Lieutenant Andy Kessler, call sign Chunder. And Chunder stands for blowing chunks like thunder. All right. My skipper is, at the time, is Scott Swift, whose call sign is not so Swift. So you get the idea. The call signs are not made to make you, there's no Iceman, there's no Maverick. There's nothing cool in the call sign. So I'm sitting there, and I'm a brand new intel officer. I'm sitting at my desk, and Chunder walks into the space, and he goes, and they have a panel of aviators trying to work on my call sign. I have to have a call sign.
This is a group of people. They're all colluding together.
Yeah, you have to have a call sign to be in naval aviation. And I'm a brand new ensign. And so he walks in, and they've got this board, and on the whiteboard's all my possible call signs. And Chunder walks in, and he says, hey, what's the name of that guy in the Christmas Carol? And I said, well, Jacob Marley? And he goes, oh, that won't work. He walks out, comes back about 10 minutes later and goes, what about the singer? I said, Bob Marley? Because that won't work. And I said, what about Skid? My last name's Markley. Skid Markley.
Okay.
And he goes, well, that's really good, but since you thought of it, we can't use it. Came back an hour later and goes, you know what? We're going to go Skid. It's going to stick.
That's great.
And there could have been nothing greater for my career. That call sign stuck with me. Everyone knew me as Skid for 30 years. That call sign, or 25 of those years, that call sign stuck like magic. I remember it was about 8 years later, I was taking a class of intel officers up to the Pentagon. And the admiral's talking to these brand new ensigns. And he looks at them and goes, okay, you ensigns and you JGs and Skid. And I'm thinking, I don't have rank. I'm Madonna of my community. I've got one name. And I literally just went by Skid for my whole entire career. It was great.
Wow. I just watched, I'm a big basketball fan, and we just watched last night the documentary Untold Story on the Jailblazers.
The Jailblazers?
So I guess growing up, never knew that. But anyway, the GM was very proud that he said, because all these guys got in a bunch of trouble, which is hence the Jailblazers. But he's like, he's really proud that there were only two other monikers in the NBA, and they were proud to have a third. It was the Bad Boys, the Pistons, and the Showtime Lakers and the Jailblazers.
Right.
He was just happy to have a moniker. Even if it's not too complimentary.
I remember I was happy that my call sign was based on my last name, not how I looked, and not something I did.
That's right.
There was one of the aviators, his call sign was Hi-Fi Harris. And I thought, that's pretty cool. Hi-Fi is a good call sign. That sounds strong. HYFI. and it actually stood for Harris, you friggin' idiot. So yeah, it's the call signs were not like the movies at all. There was no Mavericks. There was no Goose. It was pretty much just something you had to deal with. And if you fought the call sign, if you said I don't like that call sign, oh, it stuck like magic.
Oh, I'm sure.
So you had to, whatever they called you, like, okay, just nonchalant. I'll take that.
Yeah, just take it.
Just take it.
Top Gun instructor. Everyone has seen, no doubt, at least one of the Top Gun movies.
I hope so.
Hopefully a new one. New one was great. What's different between the movies and real life?
So pretty much everything. The movie does a great job, I think, of catching the camaraderie and the essence of naval aviation of Top Gun. But when you get there, when I got selected to be the Top Gun intel officer, and I get up there, and there's over 20 aviators, and they have all been selected not just because they're great aviators, and they are great aviators, but because they're great instructors as well. The concept is that Top Gun has is we're going to take you in, we're going to teach you and put you back in the squadron so you can teach there. So you are a force multiplier. Mm-hmm. So that means everyone has to be a great communicator, a great speaker, and they have to be the type A personality to put all the detail work into everything. I knew that sort of when I got there, but I remember that when I checked in, I show up in Top Gun, I sit down with the training officer, and he looks at me and he goes, okay, first thing first, he said, we don't wear ribbons, we wear a V-neck t-shirt and something else. And he said, go back, get that fixed, and then come back again. I'm like, oh my God, this is serious. Everything they do there is super serious. Myself and Patrick Kirchner, who was one of the Marines who was there, we would go through all of the PowerPoint presentations, and we would look for wherever there was a font error. We'd go through hundreds and hundreds of slides looking for a spelling or font mistake or punctuation, and you couldn't have any orphans. Everything had to be perfect. Perfection is the standard at Top Gun, not a pursuit. And so going in there, I mean, for 3 years, I was there early in the morning, late at night. Classes would come in, and you were going to put as much effort into the prep for the class as the class. And then when the class is over, you would have a very long debrief and an after action meeting on how did that class go. And they would discuss everything into detail. Now, there were a lot of great things that I learned from this. The Top Gun standards, which they hold very high, are great. One of the ones I enjoyed the most was that on the meetings, they take the meetings super seriously. So if you are late for the meeting, it's a $5 charge. If you repeat anything someone said before you, it's a $5 charge.
It's not adding any value. The
idea is this: if you're in the big meeting, 30 people in the meeting, right, and you zone out for a second, and then you say, "Oh wait, I forgot to mention this."
Okay.
And it's like, nope, that was mentioned. Now you owe us $5 because you zoned out. The murder board process at Top Gun, murder board means that's to present your lecture. You go through the 6-month murder board process, and you are going to brief your brief to the Top Gun bros, their brotherhood they have there. And you're going to brief it 5 times to make that your final murder board. So your pre-board, your murder board. And that pre-board, my brief was an hour and a half long. My debrief on my pre-boards was usually twice that time. They would sit there and go, well, you said the word 15 times, and you were not allowed to look back at your slides. So you had to know where your slide was just by memory. So you would reach over, click the clicker, turn the slide. It is that pursuit of perfection, just for the academics, was fantastic. I ran the library as part of my job, and the students would come in there, and they would just be so worn out. They were in there at 6:30 in the morning till 8 o'clock at night for academics, and then once those academics week ended, and they're going flying, and they are just spent. It is the best training you can possibly have. But the instructors, they are so professional and so take that so seriously. It is just it's neat to be part of, but it's 3 years of the hardest press you're going to get in your lifetime.
Is the program meant to be you're in and you're out, or do some of these guys stay as instructors forever?
Most of them. So the way the Navy runs is on, you'll do like 3 years at a command and rotate in. So most of them are there for 3 years. They'll rotate out to the next command, and then they'll go in there as a top gun instructor, SWTI, and they'll be at that squadron as that leader.
Okay, and then you're handing the baton over. You gotta train your replacement.
The replacements come in. That's one of the most fascinating part about the Navy, not just Top Gun in general, is that you're always training your replacement. Different from the Army, different from the Air Force. When you're on a ship and someone gets sick or gets hurt, someone has to do their job. So you're training someone always. You're always looking for who can do my job in case something goes wrong. You can't call someone to come in. So and for me, like in my department on the carrier, I had 55 people. And that means over a 3-year rotation, you're going to be losing people every month and gaining people every month. And you're constantly working on, okay, who's going to be in charge of this? Who's doing this job? Who's going to be the next, get promoted? Who's going to be the next person leaving the Navy? So you're always looking for, how do I keep that person in? How do I keep that person going? How do I get them to that next place? Mm-hmm. The moment you become super competent is the moment it's time to go to your next job.
We're going to go down two paths here because we've got an audience of business guys that are all business leaders. And so there's some leadership lessons that I'm sure you learned that would be helpful to pass on. And then we've got a bunch of guys that have kids, and you're working with kids, young adults, young men and women. I'm curious how these kids are showing up, and then the leadership lessons, and like help us as parents. All right. So first, help us as business people, leaders, and then help us as parents. So let's start with our audience in mind first. What did the Navy teach you about leadership, and like how could that apply to some business guys that are listening in? So
the Navy is a very structured leadership training program. We have leadership training almost every echelon of your career. You show up. For me, I enlisted back in '88, and so I show up as an E3 on the carrier, and from the very moment you show up, you can see the different roles that are ahead of you. Right? You want to be a work center supervisor. You want to be a leading petty officer. You want to be a chief petty officer. Everything is stepped up for you. So you see the leadership roles. And then when you make rank, the Navy has courses built in there to teach you leadership things that they've learned, or leadership things that you should know. So leadership for me, from the very, very day one, you start filling your leadership toolbox. You were taught about the leadership toolbox super early on, how things affect other people and how you can have an impact upon somebody else. I got a text yesterday morning from one of my cadets who's joined the Navy 2 years ago, and he was like, my 2 bosses are super cool. Yeah. And I'm like, that's great. What are you learning from them? What are you learning about how to be a good leader? So when you're in that job, how are you going to do it? Division officer is one of the pinnacles for us when you have like a gigantic leadership role where you're kind of hands-on, where you're in charge of, I had one of my aviators who had a 50-man division on the flight deck. And he amazed me because he knew the names and the academic plans of all of his division. He'd be out there on the flight deck and he would see someone and he would say, hey, how is this going? How is that going? And he knew he had memorized all of his workforce and what they were working on. And they loved him for it, right? So leadership wasn't just, here's your rank, now you're in charge. Leadership was, okay, how do you motivate someone to want to be better? Mm-hmm. How do you inspire them? And that was a big call for me. When I made officer, when I got commissioned, I intentionally went from the East Coast to the West Coast to get away from my friends and so I can try out my new leadership in a whole new area, a whole new environment. The pinnacle of that was back in 2013. I got to be the executive officer in Pensacola for one of the Navy's bigger basic schoolhouses. I had about 200 civilians working for me. I had a 26,000 student throughput that I was responsible for. And every day you're under a microscope. Every day they're watching you. Every day they're seeing what you do. And I remember the nice thing the Navy gives you is your senior enlisted are without exception the best. They know what their job is and they manage a lot of the ins and outs of the Navy. And I remember I was there and I started to walk across the grass And my man actually pulled me aside and goes, no, sir, if they see you walking across the grass, they'll think it's okay. I'm like, okay, I got to go around to my truck and I'll do that. But it's all in the right interest of leadership. And that the realization is once you rise in rank, you're going to be under a microscope the whole entire time. And how you present yourself, how you hold and carry yourself, it's important every step of the way. How you answer the phone, how you deal with people, how you deal with problems, that's all under a microscope. They're watching you every step of the way.
One of the struggles I have, and maybe it's just my industry here at the Gents Place, you have some people that don't necessarily want to rise in rank, right? They're okay exactly where they are. They're good at what they do. And so I would like to impart leadership principles and growth and help them get to the next level, but they may be perfectly fine. Did you run into that in the military where they didn't have a desire to get to captain, for example?
We have some like that, not many, because of the military and Navy, Army, Air Force, all of them the same on this is you have a high year tenure. At a certain point, you're out. And all of us realize, you see that you're in there for 4 years to get your GI Bill, or you're in there for 20 years to get your retirement, right? So you're all looking for something at the end of this whole road. The kids who come in for that 4 years for the GI Bill, there are a few of them who are like, this is it. This is what I'm doing.
They know going in, they want to be there forever, or they know going in, I'm 4 years in and out.
They have their career plans already in their mindset. That I've seen a lot of those change. I've seen a lot of them, they get in the Navy and they like, oh, this isn't so bad. This is actually because everything is so well laid out for progression that you can see how you can rise in rank. It's easier, I think, in the Navy or the military to kind of say, okay, I want to do this because I can see how to progress. You don't see that when I was in Pensacola as the XO. The government civilians don't have that progression because you're hiring them as a company for that one billet. You're paying $100,000 for that person to be in that job, not to progress, but to do that job. So you don't really have progression in mind. The military kind of builds progression into the stepping stones of that career path.
So I mean, they're assuming that everybody wants to grow. So that's why, from a module standpoint, every time you're at rank, there's additional leadership.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Now, if you don't, though, pretty much it's a 4-year tour. You're getting out. We have the exit ramp already built in. We're happy you're there, do your job, and then we're happy that you succeed when you leave the military. Trying to make sure what we don't want to have is someone do 4 years and get out and be unemployed and be idle. The idea is that they can show the rest of the world that, hey, this is good. This is a good benefit. Trying to keep retention and that flow. There's a huge turnover of population in the military. For each one of our students at Pensacola, I believe the price tag was about $125,000 to train them. So you want to keep them. You're spending a lot of money to train them. You don't want them to leave, but you realize some are just going to do their 4 years.
Mm-hmm. Leadership is fill in the blank because it's so much, but after everything you've taken in over your career.
Leadership is a job, right? Leadership is it's not something you do in addition to your job. Leadership is its own particular role. You have to take leadership extremely seriously when you recognize that, hey, I'm going to be in charge of this 55-man department or this 200-man schoolhouse. You got to realize that from that moment you take that role on, your job is to motivate those people and also to provide resources and training to make sure they can do their job successfully. When they fail, that's you failing, right? And when I went to a command in Fort Belvoir called DTRA, Defense Threat Reduction Agency. And they're responsible for counter weapons and mass destruction across the nation. And I get there and I'm in charge of not just Navy, but Air Force and Army, right? And I'm like, I've never had to do this, right? So all of us in the military, at the end of every year, we have a eval or fit rep where someone's saying you did good, you did bad, or this is your ranking, right? Because we're all trying to promote in the officer corps. And so I suddenly had to write Army and Air Force and officer records and recommendations. And I'm like, that's now my job. These lieutenants are going and captains, they're going to do their job, which is to make the department run. But I need to make sure they get the recognition for the job that they're doing. So I did a crash course on how to write Army, and the Air Force stuff was hilarious because the Air Force uses a ton more acronyms than the Navy does, and we use a lot. And it was, they wanted you to have everything in one line. And so you'd write this kid's what he did that year, but it would all be so acronym heavy. I'm like, I have no idea what I just said. Yeah. But okay. And it worked. And I got a couple of them promoted, and I felt good about that. And their success was my success. Mm-hmm. Right.
I learned, I wrote this down because I ran into our Prosper franchisee yesterday. It's our first veteran franchisees, husband and wife, JD and Sheena Lawless. But we were talking about acronyms because they're both military. GFY, and some of this is, it's not fit for minors here. Good for you, and it could also mean something else. FUBAR means something, and then there was something called Falcon. Have you heard that before?
I haven't heard that Falcon one.
I'll have to look that up. Yeah. But yeah, it's I now realize, so my wife's giving me a hard time because I make acronyms out of everything. I realized it was my dad's military.
Yeah, that's it.
Gave it to me.
We were on the airplane, and I was laughing. My wife had no idea why I was laughing, but we were in F and G for chairs.
We brought that up yesterday too.
Yeah.
F and G.
And I'm like, F and G. She's like, why is that funny? I'm like, a freaking new guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Like that's if you're an aviator at a squadron without a call sign yet, your call sign's F and G.
Yep.
Until you get a call sign.
He sent an email yesterday. Mm-hmm. And signed at FNG because they're the newest Gents Place location. So, yeah. All right, let's go to your work today at NJROTC and in the Louisville school system. Tell us just about. We'll dive into leadership stuff, but just tell us what you're doing there, when you started, what the program is all about.
So about 4.5 years ago, we moved to Plano into the Frisco area, and I was job hunting because we had kind of had to pivot on a dime. I got out here and with NJROTC billets, so the Navy again pays for, the half the cost for JROTC units, but you have to wait for an opening, right? So you can't just say I want to get the job. You have to wait till someone leaves the job, and I got lucky about halfway, a couple months in, an opening popped up at Louisville High School. I went out, interviewed with the principal. The principal, great guy. Jim Baker, I can't say enough accolades about him. And they had a sudden departure of their officer, and so the opportunity was for me to jump into that role. And I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I wasn't quite yet sure, right? So I jump in, and with JROTC, you are, as the instructor, given a whole lot of latitude in what you want to focus on. A lot of them focus on PT, a lot of them focus on drill. I kind of believe in the mind, body, spirit approach that if you want to be in the military, that you need to be well-rounded. I don't care if you're great at throwing the football, but you need to be great at everything, and you need to be smart at the same time. So we took approach on building a new direction for their unit, GPA focused, still keeping PT inside there, but building into a lot of those things that you see prominent in the military now. Drones. We have our first drone. We went to 2 drone competitions last year. Did fairly well in one of them. We took on cyber and counter hacking and Stellar Explorer, which is overtology. We still maintain our physical fitness program, and we've done way better this last year. With going to some Raider challenges that the Marine Corps and Army push with those. Drill is going to be something we do. And color guard is our probably biggest, most important thing. We have had the chance to do color guard for FC Dallas. We've done it a couple of times now for the Rough Riders. We were at the Medal of Honor grand opening for color guard. So it is unique in the fact that if you're a math teacher, you're teaching math Monday through Friday. My Monday through Friday, every day is different. Monday, I roll in and we are doing academics. The Navy provides us academic textbooks, and we teach, buoyancy, flight operations. We teach all sorts of science. We teach weather. And then on Tuesday, they show up for PT, and we're going to take them out there. And the goal is to get them to run the mile at a reasonable pace, push-ups, sit-ups. Actually, not doing sit-ups anymore. We're doing plank. The Navy changed for planks. Less work on the lower back, less stress on the lower back. And to keep a kid from getting bored in PT, we've had to come up with several unique things. I have a thing called the zombie run, where I use flag football flags, and I have some of them set up around the track as zombies and some set up as runners. And you have to escape the zombies, and they love that. They'll run for 2 miles straight just to avoid being a zombie. Wednesdays is uniform inspection. That is, I don't know how to describe this the right way, but that is every class, about an hour, about 45 minutes, they're standing in formation being inspected for their uniform. And to see these kids come in there before the uniform inspection, they're getting their hair put together. They're making sure that their uniform, everything has to be measured perfectly. The ribbons have to be a 1/4 inch above the pocket, and the rank has to be put on correctly. Their uniforms have to be ironed. The shoes have to be polished. There can't be any strings. And at the same time, I'm teaching someone how to inspect them. I have one of the cadets I'm teaching how to inspect them. And there are certain things you can look at and say, okay, here's one of the more obvious ones. So the naval and the Navy uniform for the Navy cadets, the 7 belt loops represent the 7 C's. Almost every inspection, I'll find a couple of cadets who have missed a belt loop. And of course, you're like, okay, how did you miss a belt loop? How did you miss something that easy? The Navy has a gig line where your line for your buttons, your line for your zipper, and your belt buckle line up perfectly. So when that person's in formation at attention, that line has to be right. And oddly enough, a lot of them get the belt backwards. And so you're teaching them attention to detail. You're teaching them how to do this the right way. But to see, 45 teenagers standing at attention for 45, they're not on their phones, they're not whispering, they're not moving around. They are standing there, they're making the right calls. They call parade rest, they call attention. They do all of it the right way. It's a neat thing to see, right? Thursdays is drill, because we're always going to do drill. And that's the one that I laugh more than I should, trying to get kids to make a column left or column right in unison. It's harder than you think it is. Getting them to walk in step is also harder to do. There's a thing called to the rear march, where they're marching and they go to the rear march and they all do a complete turnaround. And that's guaranteed. You're going to catch some kid who's off in dreamland, and boom, they're walking right into each other. And then Fridays, I go into my teams day where we do the drones, robotics. Robotics is hard. We haven't competed in robotics yet, but we're still working on it. I have a team this year that we have hope to move to the next level with robotics. We have a marksmanship team with the air rifles. That is, every kid wants to be on the marksmanship team. And that is my NCAA team. I mean, that is one that we can get certification for. We do a lot of competitions. It's three poses. So you're going to be standing, kneeling, and prone. And oddly enough, standing with the air gun, for 10 shots is the hardest, because that rifle at the end, you're like, oh, this is heavy. So we do all that. And a lot of times I'll get to the middle of the semester and I'll look through the kids' grades. And because I'm big into the whole well-rounded thing, if they're failing math, I'm like, you're not doing drill today because you're doing math. And we're going to sit down and make sure that you do catch your grades up in these things. It does me no good to have them be a great drill kid and fail algebra.
Yeah.
That's not helping.
Yeah. What's the primary goal of JROTC? Is it to get everybody to enlist, to join the military? Or
absolutely, it's not. The primary goal is citizenship. The Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Marine Corps. Every one of these is the idea of teaching basic citizenship across the school system. Yes, without a doubt, you get a lot of kids who join up because of they get into it. They like the structure. The structure is, for a lot of kids, it really helps them start realizing their potential. But the goal is to kind of give them an idea of who they can be, how government works, and what they want to do post high school. Ideally, we're a junior reserve officer training course. Ideally, they all go on to ROTC in college, and that should be a stepping stone for that. And a lot of them do. And I know a couple of the RTC units have had great success with getting kids into the Naval Academy or the academies. I see that from some of them online. So that's a goal as well. I have had 2 go on to RTCs up in Maine, Norwich. That to me, I laugh a little bit at the inside because here you're taking some kid from Texas and sending him to Maine. And the first thing I'll say to him is like, have you ever seen snow? Yeah, I've seen snow. Have you really
like
seen
this kind of snow.
Right? Like, okay. But they're doing well. So Norwich, we take down to a field trip to Texas A&M. Obviously the biggest ROTC in our state. We take one up to OU, and we get them an idea of what they can do. Paint them a picture of this could be you, right? You could go on to do this. I've sent quite a few into the Navy, a couple into the Army, and then a couple of recently who graduated and been gone for 2 years. And then they come back and said, "Yeah, I just joined the Navy," because it gives them like, okay, this is in the back of their mind, something they can go off and do.
Most of these kids going to college or enlisting, like what are the percentages just out of your program or not, pursuing something else?
Out of my program right now, I'm going to say that I had 15 seniors last year. We have 120 cadets. Majority of them are going to be freshman, sophomore, junior. I keep my seniors down to about 20. They're the leadership for the program. Out of that 20, I would say that we had about 10 go on to military and or college. A lot of them, we're Title I school, we're Louisville. A lot of those kids are working. I mean, that happens. They're junior, they turn 16. I got one of my cadets, the CO for our unit is, he leaves work to go work at Chick-fil-A. And he's like the manager at Chick-fil-A. I'm like, okay, that's great. And you see it, he's top 50 student out of 1,000 graduating class. He's pushing himself hard, but work is a priority for them.
Yeah.
And once they leave high school, a lot of them are like, well, I'm going to go to trade school. Like, that's great. That's fantastic. But you have to explain to them like, okay, this is how paychecks work. And this is salary versus hourly work, right? And this is, the cost of insurance. And you try to walk them through that and the benefits of a career in the military compared to, 401k, what's the difference, right? Mm-hmm. Most of them haven't had that conversation.
I'm surprised. I have a 19-year-old college freshman and then a kid going to college. And I was shocked, and they got very good schooling. I was shocked at how little, like almost no financial literacy there is. Yeah. So it sounds like in the ROTC program, you're having some of these conversations about budgeting and benefits and things like that, but...
We are. I'll be honest. I raised 4 kids. All of them went to college, and so I learned very early on. My son, when he went to college, it didn't work out the first semester. He went to military school, and he said, "I don't like this at all." And I was like, "Sure, get out then. Don't do that." Went to a community college, and I learned that in Virginia, if you get your associates, then that knocks off a lot of requirements if you go to that university. I didn't know that. So he left before the associates, and then we had to remake some classes. I'm like, I wish we had known that going in. My oldest daughter went to U Chicago, and that scared me. I mean, when you look online, U Chicago, and it says the most expensive college in the United States.
Great school, but very expensive. I looked at that too.
I'm like, I can't afford this. But it turns out they have grants beyond belief. No one talks to you about grants. The private public school, no one gives you that conversation. One of my cadets this last year, he said, I got accepted to New Mexico State University. I said, that's great. I said, it's out of state, right? He goes, what does that mean? Like, okay, so out of state, they're going to charge you 3 times as much. He goes, well, I can't do that then. So that's how this works, right? So we have those conversations. We want them to succeed. For a variety, they're good kids for a variety of reasons, but also it's a great example for the program, right? That you're doing the extra effort to kind of walk them through what it means to grow up. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have a lot of family responsibilities, and a lot of them don't want to leave home. They're afraid to leave home. And this is early on. Like, I guarantee you here, August school starts up, and I'm gonna have the conversation. I got 50 new cadets coming in, and I'm gonna have the conversation of the spirit of adventure, right? Why do you want, most of them are going to say, I can't leave home. I'm responsible for my brother, sister, whatever it may be. But you got to say, look, you're going to have to step up, and stepping out can get you a lot of rewards in building out your resume, right? In the Navy, I remember one time an aviator told me, he said, Skid, sometimes it's not about the money. Sometimes it's about the story. And that proved to be the most epic thing ever told to me. It was like, don't worry about the money. Go someplace and get a great story so that when you're 90 and you're sitting on your porch talking to your grandkids, you have a story to tell them. Like, yeah, I went to Hong Kong 5 times, and that's great, right? The story, I think, is one of those things I tell the kids now. It's like, you need to go out there and have your own story and have your own life and find a way to, make something out of yourself.
Yeah. Title I school, I know there's a lack of resources with the kids coming in, and I want to talk about some fundraising stuff you guys are looking to do. But from a mindset standpoint, where's the deficit that you see most often from like a leadership mindset or just mindset in general? Like, what are you working with the most with these kids coming in, and like how you're shaping them?
So the hardest part is you're taking a kid in for leadership, right? And we have a rank structure in the program. So they show up and they're all going to be E1s. They are all brand new to the program. And as they rise in rank, they're there for a little while. You see some potential out of some kids, and you're going to put them in charge of the classroom, of supply. I have a public affairs officer who puts out the newsletter, and you're going to give them responsibility. The first instinct every kid has as a leader is to yell. I'm in charge. I'm going to yell. Like, that's not the answer. I said, yelling isn't going to be, it is not the most effective, especially when in a program where these kids are here they're voluntary. They're not getting paid. Like, there's no money for them in this one. This is just a PE credit, and maybe there's a lot of benefits. I'm being humorous, but there's a lot of benefits to ROTC, but they're not getting paid for the whole thing. So when you put someone in charge and they're just yelling at these kids, the kid's like, "Why are you yelling at me, man? That's not." So you have to find ways to motivate.
He's like, "I'm not getting paid enough for this."
My XO from last year, which is an interesting story. Aaron Pagankoff was phenomenal for yelling at kids. He was like, he held the bar very high, and that's tremendous. But the kids didn't respond to the yelling, and that's where our the sternness, right? What was interesting about Pagan, and he was call sign. I called him Pagan because back at Top Gun, I worked with his great uncle. So yeah, I show up here. I get the roster. I'm like, Pagankoff. There can't be more than one. These got to be related. And sure enough, his great uncle was there as a flight surgeon at Top Gun, and that's a story. He had been an F-14 pilot, the Top Gun movie F-14. He had hurt his knees, come back to Top Gun as a flight surgeon, and now he's here in McKinney as a orthopedic surgeon. I'm like, how old is this guy?
Wow.
It's Methuselah out there.
Yeah.
But just a great guy. So here I make Pagan our XO, and he is yelling, and I'm like, it doesn't work that way. We had a cadet this last year named Alvin Robinson show up. Big kid, big, gigantic kid. But he knew how to take charge. And he would get up in front of them and he would say, no, this is what you're doing. This is what I expect out of you. He would set the standards, and they would do what Alvin did. So some kids get it, all right? But you got to walk them through that growth process of how do you lead? It takes time. It takes time.
Yeah.
No one's a leader on day one.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not what you see in the movies.
No. I can remember vividly, my first leadership opportunity. I was on the carrier on the USS John F. Kennedy. This is after Desert Storm. And every day on the ship, you have a watch bill. And we were in 6-section duty. So once every 6 days, you were on watch. And you have a watch bill. And on that day, because I was the E5, I was given the job of being in charge of a 45-man working party to bring food, frozen food, from the pier to the 0-degree reefer on board the carrier. Sounds easy, right? Got to get it. This is an all-day job. We're taking tons of food, man by man. We're going to take up these little rollers and put it down here in that thing. And here I am, brand new, second-class petty officer, and this is my first chance to be in charge. And I start to move a box, and this E3, this petty officer, third class, walks up to me, E4. He walks up and says, "Hey, that's not your job. You're here to manage this. I don't need you. You don't need to be moving these things." I'm like, okay, that's good advice. So lunchtime happens. I don't manage lunchtime correctly. Half of them don't come back. By the end of the day, I've got 20-something guys who are moving. We finished the job. But in reflection, I'm like, okay, I got to do better. I didn't do that. And that third class petty officer who had more leadership experience than me, he said, look, next time tell them they can't go to lunch until their buddy comes back. They'll make sure that buddy comes back from lunch. And so those little learning experiences is how you start to build that leadership toolbox on how do I best lead. That was a horrible day.
Well, what I see most often is my son got labeled something called a try-hard in middle school. And it bothered him a lot because he was this cross-country runner, and it was like field day at the school, and there was a running competition, and he wanted to win. Mm-hmm. And he was labeled a try-hard, and I'd never heard that before. But it's not cool to try hard, apparently, anymore.
I have heard that, and we've had some cadets call other cadets try hard. And I have nipped that in the bud whenever I hear it. I'm like, this is competition. You should all be trying to.
Yeah.
So in the Navy and in the Marine Corps and in the Army, we are all competing against everyone of equal rank for that promotion. And so you got to be. You can show up at a command, and they're all equal rank to you, but you have to outperform them if you want to get promoted. When I was a lieutenant, I had 3 kids. I wanted to make rank so that I could take care of my family, right? So I was going to be teamwork focused, but I was also going to be like, I need to work harder than you guys. I have to. Aaron Pagenkoff was, I think I heard him, they call him a tryhard. But it was great because he was that kid that would set the bar. And over time, you see that they eventually, the cadets, they just realize that's who that person is, and they like, okay, that's going to be who they are. And then you teach that person, you also want to motivate them along with you, right? I have kids that were first year, they were going to be the fastest one on the track, and they would cross that finish line, and they would just stop. And I would say, no, now go back and get the rest of them and help them run. Now that's your job. You did what you needed to do. You finished the race. Now go motivate. Mm-hmm. And okay. All right. And you teach them how to lead, how to be responsible for the whole team.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Try hard's a thing. I've seen it.
Yeah. I'm glad you're shutting that down over there at your program.
I don't need that. I need them all to try hard.
Let's talk about how the program works from a funding standpoint, and like what you guys are doing, what requires funding, and how you've been successful, or what your needs are from a funding standpoint.
So the first couple of years were hard. Literally, sometimes for some of these cadets, a $20 t-shirt's out of reach for them, right? I make it mandatory. You got to have the t-shirt, the maroon t-shirt for us for when we do the football game events. But sometimes that's just too much. We've gotten better with that. Our fundraising was a little bit better last year. The Navy pays for the uniforms. The Navy pays for the flags. The Navy pays for a lot of things for the program. The ribbons, we go through a lot of ribbons every year. The ribbon racks, the name tags. The Navy pays as a huge investment into the program. They don't pay for, travel. They don't pay for the food budget. So for me to go to a drill competition, which is a requirement, 3 times a year, it's not. My boss will say, my Navy boss will say, it's not a requirement. Well, it is a grading point for my unit to go to the drilling competitions, and each one costs about $600 to enter into the competition. And then to feed those kids, when I'm taking 40 kids to a competition, that's another $300 to $400 that we have to find and pay for the kids to go. We've had, last year was fun, orienteering. We do orienteering, which is a North Texas Orienteering Association. I don't know if you're familiar with orienteering. They have it here in the parks, as the NTOA has it on a website, and you go out to a park, and they give you this electronic key, and you're going to go through the woods, and they have flags, and you key punch those flags, and the winner is the one who comes across the fastest timeline. It doesn't cost a lot, but we take the kids out there, and to feed them once again it's a lot. Last year, the Marines, love the Marines, the recruiters came in, they got us MRE boxes, meals ready to eat. Mm-hmm. And they're only ready to eat if you're a Marine, right? The Navy's like, I'm not touching that. And the kids love them. They open them up. They do the little science experiment where they make them heat up with the water. And it feeds all of them. But I'm like, I wouldn't eat that. Oh, that is so nasty. but that helps lower the cost. That helps bring that some of those orienteering. We try to do a lot of those. The kids love those events, the orienteering events. There have been occasions where the guy I work with, Gunny Sergeant Gold, he'll take the kids to a drill, and I'll take an orienteering or to a field meet because we try to keep those Saturdays where they're doing something. With 120 kids, you're trying to keep them all motivated and pushing on events. Orienteering has been great.
What have been the most successful fundraising routes for you? Do you have prior military men and women giving back? Is it corporate?
We just now got into tracking the alumni so that I can ask them to help us with it, and that's going to take me a couple of years to build that. Last year, the virtual fundraising, which I just put out, which is a 2-week process where we ask parents to send out emails to family, friends, and to help us to collect money for the military ball is our biggest expense of the year. At the end of the year, we have a big military ball, which runs about $10,000. And that event, be amazed how many kids have never been to a formal function, right? They've never had a chance to dress up. They've had a chance to go and be part of something. We brought in a Top Gun instructor as a guest speaker, Mongo Manchillo. It is the full formal regalia. We have a 45-minute presentation of all the pomp and circumstances. We recognize the POW table. We do all the things to show them what this is supposed to be about. The camaraderie, the esprit de corps that we're supposed to have. That military ball is a huge, huge deal. And it runs about 10 grand. So we fundraise over the years virtually. And then last year, In-N-Out Burger, in the last couple of years, they would have an opportunity. They bring a big truck to the school, and we would sell tickets for their burgers, and that was a great fundraiser. They can't do that anymore. The district has I guess because of some rule changes for the how the cafeterias work, we're not allowed to do that. So our principal, Mr. Baker, is phenomenal. Is trying to find us ways we can work around that. Chocolate sales in Texas, not great.
Yeah.
No. Chocolate sales, chocolate melts like crazy. And we took over concession stands for basketball games, and that helped a little bit.
You guys get a percentage of sales or something there?
Yeah, we were able to split that with the basketball teams. That helps a lot. But it is, we're not doing car washes yet, but it's been on the option block a couple of times. Like, well, we can do a car wash. That is a lot more than I realized coming into the job. Was you're constantly trying to make that extra money to pay for the whole entire event.
Yeah.
We have a parent booster club, and one of the dads, he manages our bank account and make sure that we're able to spend the money. Again, like when we host Friday night football games, we're there doing parking lot for VIPs. We're doing flag running, so we carry the big farmer flag running out there. We do VIP seating, and that's great. I get 30 to 35 cadets out there, and I got to feed them. And it's like, oh, all right. And they get tired of pizza. Pizza is only like, oh, we're doing pizza again, sir. Yeah, we're doing pizza again. All right. Yeah.
Well, hopefully some of our guys here that are watching or listening will feel called to donate. What is the best way for them to do that?
If you could email me at my school email address, markleyj@lisd.net, and I'll make sure you have that.
Yeah, perfect.
It is we're trying to set up the sponsorship program so one of my dreams, we have discovered that there is a drone soccer league, and there's 3 teams here already in Dallas, and we want to be competing in the drone soccer. It's going to cost $7,000 to start that up, and they literally send you the drones in pieces. You build that drone. And the idea is this. So a drone soccer is you have a gigantic basketball side court. Each side of the court is a hoop, and you got 3 drones inside these basketball size, containers, and 2 of them are defending and one's trying to score. And you got to fly into this little hoop to get points the whole entire time. Drones is a big deal. It teaches the kids a lot of that hand-eye coordination, and adding the gamification to that, adding it to where now it's competition, it gets them excited to that. So if I can get a sponsor for that, when we have that on the t-shirt saying, hey, these are our sponsors, that would help us tremendously as we push forth in that evolution. Same thing for robotics, same thing. I mean, those events all cost me. Orienteering. Last year, I had 2 cadets who took on the making t-shirts for the teams thing. And Louisville Lettering was our t-shirt company, and they were phenomenal. And we're able to kind of get the t-shirts out there for the cadets. And one of my classes, my second period class, I got 20 kids in there who just love playing soccer. They play soccer every Friday. I'm like, well, we can work on this or you can play soccer. And they are out there. On Tuesdays for PT, they won't run the mile. But on a Friday for soccer, they'll run for an hour and a half straight. I'm like, well, this is still a win for me. And we made soccer t-shirts, and that is, for them, that is over the moon. That is fantastic. So we learned the value of the t-shirts and the advertising. We learned a lot of the things I'm learning on the job training. Mm-hmm. The other thing that we need help with is opportunity for color guard. It takes 3 color guard events to earn their color guard ribbon, all right, which is a big deal, right? You want to have ribbons. This is all about flair, mm-hmm. right? So 3 events, and we could do a color guard event at the football games. I look for with FC Dallas, I look for with the Rough Riders, but for any organization having a opportunity to do an event, a formal event where we can bring out kids in uniform and do color guard. We've done quite a few on Veterans Day. We did for the retirement homes. We're constantly pursuing those opportunities.
They don't have color guard basketball. Too small of a venue.
We've done one. We did one at a wrestling competition. That was kind of fun. We can do it anywhere. We can do small
basketball. Okay.
Yeah, we can
be able to help you out with that.
Yeah. I saw that one of the schools did one of the Legends.
Yeah.
When we went out there with you. So we are always pursuing those for the kids. That seems to be where they really get a lot out of that. They feel the kids who went to the Rough Riders game, they were like, that was the best thing ever. One kid was his church group was there, so he's like, I have to go to this one. I got to be for this one. Like, okay, we'll get you there.
Yeah.
Those opportunities are, they're a lot. We're usually on Veterans Day, we're going everywhere. Me and Gunny, we're going to every schoolhouse. Last time I was running into one school, I'm like, okay, get up there on stage. All right, dip the flag. Go. Okay, I gotta go to the next one. We did I think 8 schools, a couple of retirement homes, all in one day.
That's awesome.
Just trying to keep them there, and they love it. They love it.
That's great, John. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Thanks for being a member here in Frisco. As I told you before, my dad and grandfather were both in the Air Force, and I've got a huge passion for the military here and supporting our veterans. So glad to have you on. I think you're the first veteran to come on, by the way.
I greatly appreciate it. I mean, when I came in the first time and saw all you were doing for veterans, I'm like, this is something I got to do.
Yeah. Thanks again. All right, guys. Until next time, thanks for joining us on The Lounge.